everyone. Welcome back to Unbridled and Unfiltered. I'm Russ Flicker with my co-host, Lori Rothman.
Hey, Russ. How you doing? Hey, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. Now, before we get started, let's make sure you're in the right place. If you've never considered buying expensive tickets to see a comic and you believe there are only 3 comics in the country worth hearing, well, you're in the wrong place.
If, on the other hand, you love live comedy and you've heard yourself say, the opener was really funny, then you're in the right place. Welcome.
Yeah, it's great to have everybody back along with us. And I'll tell you, even to be an opener, right? That's such a gift. What a prized spot, especially if you're like us and you're kind of an up and coming comic. We tried something different this week.
We did. We tried an open mic. We did our own open mic, which we did at the Stanford Comedy Club, which is part of New York Comedy Clubs. Lori and I decided to go for it and try it out.
So I don't know why I thought some major headliner star like Dave Chappelle or I don't know, Jerry Seinfeld was just going to like waltz in and try out their new material. So nervous, but it was really it was a really it was a very eye-opening experience. There were people from all stages, all levels. I think there were some people like just trying to, have a cathartic moment instead of going to their therapist. I mean, it was really crazy.
It's true. At an open mic, I think generally this is probably true, although we don't have so many experiences that we can say that. But there were some folks who this was the first time they ever tried it, and and some of them were reasonably funny, but maybe unpolished. And then there were a few people who were clearly comedians and were quite good.
I don't want to be mean because I know I can be a mean girl, but clear comedians. I mean, there was one point I looked over Russ and I said, "Do you think we should hightail it out of here?" I was trying to be, diplomatic, saying that they were looking at this as a cathartic experience. But I mean, come on, there was a guy talking about his Nazi dreams in the psych ward. I mean, I looked
My
over
gosh.
and you said, let's try and stay. Maybe we should make some friends.
Well, I think there were a couple of people that appeared to be on the run, but yeah, there was some dark. So I think dark minds are drawn to comedy, and sometimes they're wildly creative. But you're not wrong, Laurie. It was a dangerous crowd. It was funny.
I could not believe you're like, no, because, and I'll be the first one to say, look, when you're at, whether it's an open mic or whatever show, you wait, the comic manners or the appropriate considered thing to do is wait for everybody to do their set and leave. Like, it was like, oh my God. Anyway, no, but it was such a great time and eye-opening experience. And I think it was mostly positive, right? Because we got to go up there and be on New York Comedy Center stage, which was, New York Comedy Club. I don't know why I said center. But anyway, to actually be on that stage, on that mic, and you really get a feel for doing your set in front of a lot of people. It's a big room. So there was
It
that.
was. It was. And I'll tell you, and because we've gone there to actually watch comedy and have real high class comedians there, it was fun to do that. And I did what I think you're supposed to do at open mics. I'm not sure. I think you did this too, but I tried some new jokes. And one of the more humbling parts of my set was when I was trying a new joke for the first time. And in the lead up on the joke, where it was not my punchline, people started laughing, and I realized that when you're unintentionally funny as a comic, that's a problem.
Take what you can get. I
That's true.
people, so I know exactly what you were talking about. And, you were talking about female anatomy. And I think some of those guys were like, wow, he's gone even further than I would ever dare.
That's why you wanted to leave. I was like, oh no, I'm leaning in. This is dark.
It was good stuff, though. I don't think you should give up on it. Like, keep at it. So I kind of had this interesting pendulum swing, right? So that was, just getting our feet wet, right? But earlier in the week, I actually saw, I don't know how it worked out that way. I was really fortunate. I got to see Whitney Cummings in Tarrytown, and I also saw Mike Birbiglia at the Beacon in New York City, and 2 totally different styles. But oh my gosh, comedy is hard. When you try and do it yourself and you sit and watch those pros go for an hour and a half, it is unbelievable without skipping a beat and just hitting laughs, not even going a couple of seconds without. I was just doubled over the entire experience times 2.
Well, they're both phenomenal comics, and to your point, not only are they phenomenal comics and they're very funny, but they're also very, very polished, very experienced. And so I'm sure they had the audience right in their hand the entire time. was the storytelling's ebbing and flowing. Did they have? Did they have like individual jokes or mostly storytelling? An hour plus is a long time, and you really need to be a pro.
Well, let me tell you this. Honestly, I was not excited to see Mike Birbiglia because he's clean and he loves his family. Okay.
You can't relate at all.
But let me tell you, that MFer won me over. He has this sweet disposition, which I thought I would rebuff, coil from. But he was just so not jaded, gave me hope, renewed my faith in, middle age, not all being jaded jerks, So, but no, the stories, his style was more of a storytelling, sort of sharing vignettes of his day-to-day life with his family. He has a young daughter, so could certainly relate to that. Whitney was actually much more dirty. So
You went there expecting that she's a woman who is dirty and funny. She's great, obviously, but you felt like you could relate more to her, I guess. You know.
I mean, again, just when I came away, so it was a Friday night and then a Saturday night, and I just went, oh my gosh, they're both totally different, but the same in this talent, right? This charisma, this X
Yes.
factor that you
Yes.
can even put your finger on.
Well, it's interesting because I spoke to your husband, and he joked because he's our both our spouses are so supportive of our comedy, and going to open mics and other things, and he joked. He said, "Wow, I forgot how amazing a high level pro is," and of course I said, "None taken."
You're getting there. Stop. You're so short. No, listen, you actually have a day job. I mean, it would be a gift, right, to not have to earn money. I mean, because it is hard. I mean, we haven't discussed that aspect of it, right? The actual, um, you know, career and financial stake. I don't know how you want to characterize it, but it's when you're getting started, like you kind of have to have a day job and then hustle the evening clubs and do all this. And I've got kids still at home. You have a busy career, incredible career in and of itself besides the comedy. So these guys, and I'm not saying they have it easy because all they have to do is work out, sit in the makeup chair and like think of ways to be funny and then waltz out for an hour and a half a night. It's much more than that. But for I think those of us like everyday people, there are a lot of things, a lot of aspects of life that you have to juggle.
Well, and for yes, and doing comedy as a hobby and deciding where it would go is sort of like where we are now, and I would say that it's super rewarding because I really enjoy writing and performing, and it's like art, for someone who's not talented, who can't draw or paint or sing or perform in that way. It is very rewarding. But you're right. To get to the next level, it's super super hard work and also talent and skill and all the rest of it.
And training, right? You just kind of waltzed into it and went. And I know you took a couple of classes years ago in the city and had a performance, that those classes culminated in. But I know your son is currently taking a comedy class in college. You're telling me a little bit about this, so I'm curious to hear more.
Yeah, no, this is super fun. So my son, who is in a business program, and one of his electives is comedy writing, and of course I got a pretty big kick out of that because it feels like something that we could share a little bit. And I've had the benefit of very 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 briefly, but chatting with him about some of the class, and now he's got to work on a short set, and so I'm going to hear some of the beginnings of his set. And I'm really excited to hear what he has in store.
You're bearing the lead, Russ, because he sent you the sweetest compliment. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the class where he was asked to name his favorite comedians. Come on, share the story.
So, well, okay. So in the class, one of the early days in the class, on the blackboard, the teacher was writing down comics that people loved. Now, to be fair, he was towards the end of those chosen, so a lot of the greats were listed as comedians, and then Ben for shits and giggles said, my dad is one of my favorite comedians, and so they wrote my name. So I have a picture of the blackboard with just all the greats from a whole bunch of students, 30 names or something like that, and then Russ Flicker written down there, which is just hilarious and adorable.
Why not you? All those guys and you. I mean, it's like it's got to be someone. That's what I tell my kids all the time. Dream big, aspire high, because someone's got to do it, right? Whether it's comedy or professional baseball or whatever.
Totally. And by the way, totally. And by the way, he's working on his set, and he said, Dad, I know in your comedy, so they're academically learning a little bit about putting together, comedy. And he said, I know you like surprise in your comedy. That's really what you like to do, is have the audience surprised by where you're going at the end. And he said, I can try that also, but I have to be cautious because the things I know about, I don't want to make fun of my classmates, my fraternity, this school. I'm like, all right, well, we have to figure out where, what you can all agree. You can make fun of yourself. That's a good way to do it. And so I'm having some fun chatting with him about it.
I mean, that's the challenge, right? That line that we're talking about off the top at the open mic, like you don't want to scare off your audience. You don't want to forget even offending them. You just don't want to go into those places, push those buttons that you might not realize that you've actually unleashed. It could be a little risky.
Totally. And but that's why some of these comics, I'm so impressed by comics who do it, who can do a full set and be as engaging and as funny as they are and be clean. It's very hard to do that because it takes away one of the arrows in your quiver of surprise, if you will. And so it's really impressive when they can do that.
Do you make an effort to be clean versus dirty? Because I feel like you do walk the line.
I have recently made an effort, because if there are jokes that can have a marginally cleaner version, or I can use a cleaner word and get almost the same result, then I've been trying that recently, and it's required more work. I'm not one of the greats, so it requires more work, but it is good when you can pull that off.
So what's next? What's next on the agenda? Like, where do you go from here? It's like coming on to the warmer months, you feel a little, people I think want to be out and about a little bit more. It's a little more, as a comedy consumer and a comic myself, I'm like, oh, I'm just much more motivated to do things. So
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, totally. And well, look, you and I have had the benefit of, and we don't always do it together, but when we can, trying different things, going to open mics. Sometimes you'll explore something and say, "Hey, Russ, you should check this out." You have a big show coming up. I'm excited for your show. You have a big show in a new room in White Plains coming up.
So that'll be fun. The Westchester Comedy Club. It's a new sort of room that they're launching. This is the inaugural show. Thanks for throwing it out there. And I think we're up here in Westchester County, New York, north of Manhattan. And I think our little bedroom set of suburban towns needs a little more life and a little more laughter. And we have another club, Jackie B's. And then there's a comedy club in Rye. And then there are some producers who sort of roam around and open up rooms here and there. So I think that comedy is really just kind of having a renaissance up in Westchester. I don't know. Did I mention to you I did a set in the city recently as well, and in New York.
Oh, that's right. Tell us about that. That was a great fun venue.
Talking about material and content and do you go clean, do you go dirty? I mean, the message, the lesson for me was that I definitely need to work on having more universally understandable or appreciated material, because I definitely lean into the mom com. I definitely lean into the Asian stage stuff. And when you have an audience, even if it's 50 people, if they're either tourists or they're, college kids, they're going to be like, I don't want to hear about your complaining. If you have like suburban mom problems, like that's not interesting. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at.
You're totally right, and I'd say that one thing, of course, there are pros, but if you take, for example, the shows you went to, at that scale and size, 90% of the people booking that know the comic, so you're almost self-selecting, and so they understand what they're getting, and of course they have big audiences because they're great. But I do think when you have, when you're going to a venue and you're at our level and you're performing in front of 40 or 50 people, you can get lucky or unlucky. If they're all close to our kids' age, a lot of our comedy is just not going to hit as well.
Right. No, we're so spoiled, right? Because we started so local, hyper local. You produced these shows in my backyard. We moved it to a little club in our town village. And we were fortunate enough to be welcomed by Alyssa Katz, the show producer of Yakety Cats. And so again, it's like all of our people, we totally stacked the audience, and you just can't do that forever. So
Agreed.
appreciate looking back over this last year of doing those types of shows. I was really fortunate. I really appreciate having these friends who are happy to come out and see us and support us time after time and keep laughing. So,
Yes, yes,
um,
and to your husband's point, there's only so many times necessarily they want to hear us tell the same jokes, but at the same time, we've been very very lucky to have folks our generation with our experiences, and having more universal comedy is key. I agree with you.
what my husband says to you versus what he says to me about the comedy experiment that we're doing. He asked me if it's like travel sports.
He's taking you on the. You made the travel team, Lori. Congratulations.
And now every weekend we have to go to this place and that place and stay at this, two-star motel and make our plans around, going here. And if friends ask for plans, it's always like, well, hey, I have a set here. Why don't you come and have bar food and cheap beer? It's like,
Well, he should be lucky. He's not buying you specialty equipment. It's only bar, food, and beer.
what specialty equipment? Where are you going with that?
Because you're not in a travel sports team. Oh my gosh.
So
I'm
this is why I have to stop with the dirty
That's you, Lori. That's you. That's not me.
the specialty equipment. Like what?
I was thinking baseball bats.
Oh, right, okay. No, the barrier yes, the barrier to entry for comedy is nothing like being on a travel sports team.
But when I get cut from a show, I do cry, and Lisa has to support me.
Oh gosh, no, these competitions, right? It's the same idea, like, "Oh, great, you won. We're here for another round." It's like I haven't been that fortunate yet. I haven't won anything.
And the reality is the other comics I've experienced so far have been super supportive. I imagine as you lean in and wrap up, there'll be things. This is a perfect example of what you see in travel sports and everywhere. Whereas you're all friends, someone does a set, they're awesome. You're like, oh damn, they're killer. They were so good, and then you feel bad about yourself, and it's like anything else. It's a microcosm of life.
Oh, I'm just like even more reason for me to not get too serious about this. I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
You have the natural charisma, so the audience loves you, and that's probably from your broadcast days, or just natural talent, but or both probably.
Okay.
But
What are you talking about? No. Can I tell you, I did spend a lot of years in TV news, and I figured when I'd step back, it should be a piece of cake, like being a mom, talking to a kid. I mean, people made like big money decisions based on the information I reported on. No one freaking listens to me. And I think it's like the source of the comedy, right? Like I need my own sort of outlet because it's so frustrating. I'm like, I don't understand. I have these big time investors. My husband himself used to watch me on Bloomberg and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm dating that girl." He's an investor as well. And it's like, it's just it kills me. So
Lori, when my kids were young, there was a time I was home and everyone was hawking me, and I remember I said in a fit of anger, in the office, people care about my opinion. People think I have a valuable opinion. No one here apparently cares. Um, but the humbling aspect of, when you're in your 50s and you've had all those life experiences, comedy comes from that. That's why it's harder, I think, for my son to create comedy. He just has fewer experiences to pull from.
well, that's actually a great point, right? Because I do watch these younger 20 something comics and they are the real deal. That is tough because they just don't have the life experience to draw from, right? Like I feel like I never could have done this out of college because I didn't have the experiences. I didn't have the maturity and well, I don't want to go as far as wisdom, but there's a lot of screwing up that I've done the last couple of years.
Well, it takes the time to screw up, and also the calm to look back on that and laugh at yourself about it and laugh. That's when you get to this place, and I feel like we're in that stage of life now, and maybe that continues for a long time, but where we can look back and say, wow, there are a lot of funny things about what I did, what others did, experiences we had, and we can laugh about them.
Speaking of laughing about things, you were telling me earlier you had the funniest reaction to some of the news this week. I'm going to let you start from the beginning. Like I
Absolutely. Well,
away from this, but it is golden.
Oh, it's great. I mean, it reminded me our last episode, we talked a little bit about traveling when men travel and women travel and girls trips and men and boys trips and we all have like these little chats that we label, Vegas Bros or whatever it is. I went with some friends to Miami. I labeled it Miami Vices, and anyway. But then when you saw the Signal chat controversy in government where people at the very highest levels, and it's the mistake about putting classified out information about a war in a chat. Obviously, that was really challenging and terrible. But as a comic, you always see the funny in it, and I'm thinking, what was that chat named? Was that War Bros? Houthi shooters. What'd they call it? And they probably had some side chats, right? Like a couple of them had side chats. Like, can you believe that guy? He always wants to blow something up, or it shows you that for good or ill, and in this case ill, that there's a little bit of a fraternity bros environment amongst some of the groups of government, and I think if you take it less seriously, you say it's a reminder that people are people, and so even
All right.
even behind the scenes. Sorry, please.
Well, I certainly have my girls chat cutesy names.
Yeah, yeah,
A
totally.
few of them with you, with our spouses and some other friends that we travel with over the years.
We send hilarious pictures or memes or cartoons related to it. It's great fun.
Every time, right? We're not, in charge of protecting the safety and the national security of the United States of America. So, okay, like a little bit of a different,
Thank goodness.
although I don't know. I think you all,
But
what
maybe.
these days, people seem to think everybody's got it figured out, but I don't want to go down that road. Um,
Agreed. Agreed.
Fun conversation this morning. We have a guest as well today.
I'm really excited to bring her on.
And we are so thrilled now to introduce Cyndy Cecil. Cyndy is a comic based up here in Westchester, New York with us, and she also performs all over New York City. I had the pleasure of meeting her at the Ladies of Laughter competition and was totally blown away by her talent and her hilarity. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I loved meeting you too. I've been so lucky to perform with you both on shows. I mean, who'd have thought, like, getting into comedy the way we are, you'd meet so many wonderful people? Because I always thought of comedians as being really, I don't know, guarded and sort of depressed and angry.
Well,
There's
I
so
do
many
think a lot.
lovely people.
I think you're right. I think a lot of we do think of it as like the more dark and unusual thoughts you have in your mind, maybe that's going to make you funny, which is hilarious. But there are a lot of great people despite that.
No, I know. It's wonderful.
So, what has been your experience, meeting people and networking in this industry? And, maybe what advice do you have for some people on that front?
Well, my experience, like I just said, has been amazing. I'm having so much fun. I feel like I have a whole new social life. I could go out any night of the week with someone that I've met and see a show, grab a drink, get dinner. I perform. I mean, it's just been amazing. I had no idea. So if like I'm, newly divorced, so I recommend anybody who's newly divorced to do comedy. You'll have a whole
That's a
new
great.
life.
I feel like we've got the headline, folks. We've got our
Yeah.
headline. So, Cindy, how did you get into comedy? When did you get in? How did you get into comedy?
Well, first of all, my grandfather is, he was just a joker. Always, always. You couldn't tell if he was being honest or telling a joke. And he would talk to everybody, and everybody felt the same about about that way, because he was just so full of jokes and joy and fun. And my grandma also she was just always wild. When she was 88, we were playing Yahtzee. And 'cause that's what you do. I love Yahtzee. And I was like, Grandma, is there anything you want to do before, it's too late? And she's like, oh, she's 88. She's like, oh, honey, I sure would like to have sex again.
Oh, good for her.
I mean, just like, funny jokesters,
I don't think she was
racy.
joking, but go
I
on.
don't either. I was like, should we call the fire department? So you can't breathe. You could get a
Oh,
kiss.
brilliant. That is brilliant. So you are not only on stage, Cindy, but you're behind the scenes producing these shows. I know you had an incredible show of women comics for Women's History Month. How do you come up with these ideas and how do you manage sort of both sides of the business?
I'm a producer by, my career that I've done, before becoming a comedian, that, a famous, highly paid, on the road comedian. Why'd you get into comedy? For the money. Not.
That's
So
a great joke.
earlier, like, how do you make a living doing this? I mean,
Um, I forgot the question. Oh,
How do
yeah.
you manage both being a producer and also a
Right.
comic?
Right.
yeah.
So, I've been in television when it was called TV. So for 35 years, I worked at Turner Broadcasting and put myself through college. And I've just always been somebody who, produces stuff. Even when, think about what you did when you were a little kid. What did you do for play? I would put shows on in my neighborhood and cast people and, be superheroes. And so it's just like, I feel like, comedy is putting together a comedy show is like putting together a shoot with entertainment and talent that has to be cast. And then, there's a whole promotion and marketing thing. And I do entertainment marketing in my career. So, it's a really fun way to do it. I love it. I love putting
Well,
women on stage. And now I'm going to start doing some more shows where I have men too.
what?
I know.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
are welcome.
Look, your shows are awesome. I've enjoyed the shows and like Ladies of Laughter that highlight female comics, which is great. And look, I love seeing up and coming comics because you do find such like an interesting. People are trying all different kinds of a wide variety of comedy, and so I'm just a lover of comedy. So I love when I get to see people that some of whom I've never seen before.
Yeah, I know. There's just so many points of view in the world. And, when people can make you laugh, it's like a involuntary response. And so when you're there and you get that, and it's just like being in a room and the people are laughing, it's infectious. It's so good for us. I don't know. It's such a great
Well,
thing to be
I
doing.
admit that I stalked you, Cindy, because you just had energy and this charisma that just jumped off the
So
page
do
or the
you. So do you.
mutual admiration society. But very seriously, and I have a TV career as well, and we're neighbors here in Westchester. I was like, I am gonna seek her out, and she's gonna be my friend.
Yes. Let's
But
go. Let's go.
I really feel like you have a lot to share and lift. You were mentioning how you love the people and the women in particular. Sorry, Russ, and not that sorry.
No, there are a
Uh,
few guys I really like.
so when it comes to your material, this is my long-winded question. Like when it comes to your material, how often do you change it up? How do you bounce it off other people before you bring it out? Like what's your process?
I'm a class whore and I'm always in classes.
Huh?
I
Okay.
always take classes. I love taking classes because I love being with people and I try stuff out. Then I also refine things. I work with a coach who I feel like has helped me so much. Do you guys know Tom Eshelman?
I think I've heard.
Name.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's performed at Yakety Cats and he performs all over the city and he's Gotham. He's, very successful comedian. And he has a process that is different than any other coach or teacher I've ever worked with, any classes. He really breaks down line by line and he watches it with you. And I mean, it could be, we change one word and it changes the joke. And it is that
That's
much
what I
work.
think people don't understand, which is that at that level, there's a joke. The idea is funny, the writing is funny, but then to get the right delivery, where is the pause? Is that the right adjective, or should we? There are a couple of choices here to describe this thing, um, and so to really tighten that joke up to the next level, it is that kind of play by play, word by word, second by second, which is great.
Yeah. The other person I love working with is Becky Viduccio, and she was in Ladies of Laughter. She toured. She was on America's Got Talent, and she has just such a fun point of view, a feminine influence, and some of the stuff I'm doing. I like to go racy, and I like working with her because it helps me not be as naughty as I want to be. And some shows you can't, and also I love her stuff because it's just great for women and she was a headliner last night. She was killed. She's
Yeah.
so funny. Yeah.
It. So what's next? What's coming up, Cindy?
Okay, what's coming up? I have like 5 shows coming up. And so I'm like,
Life.
okay. And April 10th, I have a fun show at Room 52. And then I'm really excited about this new thing. May the 1st, May Day. It's a Thursday night in the city at the Bitter End. They've asked me to put together a lineup. So that'll have guys and gals. And it's going to be a great show. I can't wait. And that is such a historic, New York City venue, known mainly for music, but really a lot of comedians, famous historic comedians have been there, like from George Carlin to Joan Rivers. I mean, really, really important people. So I think I'm going to freak out just standing on that stage.
Well, we didn't even ask you who your inspirations are. You threw out a few names.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I want to hear about yours too. So I'll go and then you guys tell me yours. Okay. I love Ali Wong. I love Amy, Schumer Amy Schumer, because they're both so unapologetic.
Like,
Wait, what'd you do?
wait, Amy Fisher shot her
I don't think she's talking about Amy Fisher. That would be weird.
No, but Amy Schumer's husband, I think, is Fisher or something. Anyway, so I'm sorry, Cyndy, this was you.
No, I don't want to be like Amy Fisher.
That's hilarious.
Sorry.
Cindy's under arrest. Look me up.
Yeah.
But Amy Schumer, I love Ali Wong. They're both unapologetic and they're racy and juicy, and it's really fun to be free like that. It's so fun, and I love watching them. What about you guys? Okay, you're first.
Well, I love Louis C.K. And I also, so many. I'm impressed by Nate Bargatze with his ability to be funny and be completely clean. And because I tend to the racier side as well. But I love comedy.
I'm interrupting everybody today. Sorry, but Russ, is Louis C.K. the one with the thing that he's like, everyone knows my thing now, my kink?
Yes, he had some issues. And going back to our earlier conversation of some comedians, have maybe come from a dark place, not all. But yes, he's had some challenges. I'm referring to only his comedy that I like.
I saw him recently at the Cellar, and he just walked in, and they, how when you're famous like that, you can just go anywhere and get on a show. So he walked in, he had notes, he was killing. It was great. It was fantastic.
Oh, that's cool.
I also love Pete Lee. Do you know Pete Lee? Check him out.
Oh, I will. I'll check him out.
His crowd work is off the chart. And he uses a camera, and he includes the audience in his crowd work, and he uses the camera in his crowd work, and it is so fun. He's amazing. So fun.
Another thing that
Who do you like, Lori?
Oh, well, obviously, Nikki Glazer, in terms of her delivery and her whole presence, she just broke out after that Tom Brady roast, and clearly she's at the level where I'm not taking anything away from her, but she's fantastic writers, but she knows who she is and how, what she's capable of, and just her whole kind of persona. I love Joan Rivers, of course. Her stuff has held up so brilliantly, even to this day. I watched recently a documentary on George Carlin and how he evolved from kind of a buttoned up preppy guy into, who we all know and remember him as.
Well, I didn't want to list I didn't want to sound old, right? Because like Eddie Murphy is like, some of his, I grew up watching Eddie Murphy, listening to his stuff.
Last one, the Andrew Schultz special on Netflix, where he talks about his infertility journey, spoke to me. I mean, that was just hysterical and delightful.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I don't know if we're going with.
I'm going to cough. Excuse me. Hairball.
That's not because of Andrew Schultz, though.
But it is very hard to find your voice, I find. It takes a lot of trial and error, right? To sort of, and I don't know if you can relate, Russ, but Cyndy, I mean, there are just days where you're just feeling a different way, like the hormones are where they are and the levels.
I mean, and you think, us guys are just always exactly the same?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's easier for you to be measured or to know. I don't know. Maybe it's
hormone replacement. So sometimes I'm just putting patches everywhere.
Yeah, it must just, I don't know, that maybe I need to look into that, because I'm like, okay, who am I today?
Yeah, I know. Well, it helps. It does help
today.
It sort of changed everything. I say yes.
Yeah.
Yes to hormone replacement. No, I had a really good doctor, and she got me on. She's like, the risks are very low. Get on it. I mean, like menopause sucks. It's hard. Women, I think it's harder than like getting your period. It's really, really hard, and it goes on for years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know why they call it menopause. They should call it manopause.
Man, applause.
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 Manopause. We don't have periods anymore. Let's just that's the good news.
I will say that I think guys can appreciate the challenges of both those things from a different side, but we have our own getting older challenges. But I know that that's part of the funny we were talking about before you came on, Cindy, how um, for young comics it's harder because we have life experience and we can look back at all the things that happened, and those experiences are hilarious. And if you can laugh at yourself and laugh at what you've been through, it's a lot of material. There's a lot of material to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a lot of life experiences, and I look back now, and that's what I pull from. I'm like, well, it was so ridiculous. That was like, a gift from the comedy
Yes.
gods. Okay, turn this into a bit, and I've done it with, me going to buy my first dildo, to, my kids asking me about sex, to, um, you know, breaking both of my legs a couple of years back. Yeah. So there's
Totally.
so much. I mean, that's what you get when you're, 58. You
Yeah.
get
And
you
that's
get
and that's
fun
what's
stuff.
and that's what's so interesting is that you can look back at all that stuff, and to your point, just to add to what you said before, whether you have the classes, I've taken some of those classes which are great, but also we sometimes get together with a crew of 10 or 12 people, and we're going around drinking and throwing out material and trying things, and because of course open mics, but the more you need reps, you need to put it on paper, you need to try it, but practicing it alone with no audience and just understanding how it is in your head versus having someone, whether it's a single coach or a small group or something, you do need those reps. You need that practice. You need to try it different ways to land the joke.
Yeah. I mean, I want to join your drinking joke group.
All right.
Can
All right.
I?
Well, you're in the
What?
neighborhood. We'll make that happen. That would be
Okay.
great. I
Okay,
love
get
it.
it. Get it.
Well, I was just going to say that, when you talk about where you are in life and wisdom and tapping into some of those maybe a little bit uncomfortable stages in life or whatever.
Sure.
Anyway, in our household, it's like my husband's like, menopause is just an excuse, kind of like no thing, maybe a thing, but it's an excuse. Like,
And that's when you punch him.
I don't know. I mean, do you think that you could have done this when you were, fresh out of college? Like, did it take all of
No.
that?
Yeah, no, no. I worked in television at Showtime for a while, and I worked with some comedians before they were famous. I like worked with Jim Gaffigan, and I worked with Dimitri Martin and Eugene Merman. Like they did short piece. I was in charge of like short form production, and we had like a couple series, and they were on them, and I I never I just didn't even think I could ever do comedy, stand-up comedy.
There for the very first time?
Well, I did what did you say? What did I do the very first time?
What was your motivating like, how did you break the ice?
Oh, so I did a women's talk, a talk for a women's group, and I thought I was going to make everybody feel really, moved, and people were cracking up because once I got up there, I was doing stuff, and I was like, oh, and people are like, you should do comedy. You should do stand-up comedy. So I did an open mic and I bombed horribly. I failed. I mean, I can't believe they didn't throw tomatoes at me. I mean, it's really bad. So, and that's really an
Yes.
old reference, right? That's like a vaudeville. And
Tomatoes.
yeah, and then I took some classes because I'm like, I really want to learn this. And it gets in your system where it becomes something that I feel like it's a calling now. It gets very much a purpose to like get better at it. And I always love and have loved making people laugh. Like I said, it's part of our family. It's, how we communicate with one another. I mean, I get memes and videos from my Uncle Lenny and my dad, and some of them I want to reenact. I want to recreate them with me and another friend in it because they're just so fun. And so anyway, that's how I got in. Yeah,
Well, thank you so much for engaging us today. You are
for having me.
So delightful, Cyndy. Thank you. All the
Thank
very
you.
best to you.
The
Yeah.
best to you too,
Yeah.
both of you, and I will see you at Drinking Joke Club or whatever we're
Well,
gonna
we're going
call
to
it.
see, I'm sure we're going to see you before that when you're on stage, and we look forward to performing together and drinking together and writing together. But thanks so much for being here. We really
Thanks
appreciate
for
it.
having me. It was really fun.
All the very best. Go forward. All the good stuff coming up. We'll see ya. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.